Hello, Andrew. How are
Alex,
you today?
good. I'm excited to have a chat.
Yeah, it's about time. All the stuff we've done this before, spotlights that all got lost. So those one day maybe we'll go back and film some of those, especially The Fifth Element. But today for this 13 days of Halloween spooktacular, you are here to assist me on talking about probably the greatest, at least the most famous zombie film ever made, Dawn of the Dead.
The original, we have to specify
Yes,
because
the 78 Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead. Because I've mentioned that we were going to be doing this with someone else, and they're like, "Oh, yeah. I watched that back in 2000 when it came out. I loved it." It's like, good movie, not the original, not the same one.
That one's almost like, that one's worthy of a whole other discussion because there's so much to talk about with the Zack Snyder, James Gunn, Dawn of the Dead. But of course, we're talking about the George A. Romero Dawn of the Dead on this episode of Spotlight. All right. Well, why don't we just jump right into it? Do you love this movie, Andrew?
Yes, this one is. It will always have a special place in my heart, and so much nostalgia around it. It's one of the first, like I guess in that horror general. I almost don't even consider zombie movies to be horror because they're not.
Yeah,
they're not scary, but I guess that slasher movies aren't really scary either.
Stacks!
Tina, get out of here! Go back! There's a big ugly motherfucking spot! Go back! Get out!
What's happening?
Look out, Tina! Feed me!
But anyways, it's one of the first horror movies that I got, like, I would say obsessed with when I was younger. And I've seen this movie countless number of times.
Yeah.
And George Romero also in general is a filmmaker I really look up to. And
I love George A. Romero. When he died, that was such a tragedy. I mean, he was old, but it's just like, because he really was like probably the first independent filmmaker of Night of the Living Dead. Like you and I were talking about when we watched this, it's like him, David Lynch, and John Waters with Pink Flamingo. It was like those were the three that ran the circuit that like no studio would ever buy. No studio wanted that, because like Night of the Living Dead is one of those things where, it was like exploitation in a way. But really, and this is what I love about George A. Romero, it's like he always finds ways to be very unique and then deliver some sort of message in his movies. And this Dead trilogy, I mean, his whole saga really has messages to it, but the trilogy for sure has message about society, politics, consumerism. I mean, it's no shock that it takes place in a mall for a reason, which is one thing I like to mention. Dawn of the Dead, famous for the mall, because it's like, in an apocalyptic state, what better place to go to than the gigantic mall that has everything you need? So,
and it's also from the era of the mall, right?
Yeah.
When this movie came out, the whole idea of a mall was at its peak in terms of popularity.
That's why you got this crazy ass mall that's got like every thing in it.
And they reference a lot of the time, like, oh, these people, they're just doing what they know, as if like. And I think it's funny watching it now because. Really, malls don't have the same
they don't have
social, societal significance that they did in the 70s.
No. But you can get it from like when Ken Foree has that great, that scene is so great after they clean up the mall and they're looking off and they're all dressed up and he's looking at it and it's just like.
They're after the place. They don't know why. They just remember that they want to be in here. When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
I believe for Ken Foree, this is like the big movie that kind of broke him out and everybody else. This was definitely the movie that put them on the scene. But like Ken Foree is so good in this movie. Like every time he shows up, he's super charming. He's charismatic. But then he also has that like really good, like intimidating look to him where you're just like, oh yeah, this guy feels always in control. It's really good. I love Ken Foree in this film. The opening of this movie is so great too, where he, for no budget, George A. Romero does an excellent job at showing a world collapsing, like a city falling to shreds.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
It's wild because you get this like amazing opening with like a news broadcast, quick cameo by George A. Romero in there. They're like, okay, there's like quick line where it's like, we're being taken over by the emergency broadcast, so this is pointless. No one's listening anymore. They hop in, and then it cuts to like the military guys going through that apartment building, and it's like small sets. You can tell that it's basically a sound stage with like black hung up everywhere. Doesn't matter. It's so well done and so effective, and you just see total chaos, and to the point where when they're all like, let's just ditch everybody and get the hell out of here in the helicopter, you're like, yeah, warranted. It's the same thing later in the movie where you kind of, like in Day of the Dead, where you say like, I wouldn't even stay in that bunker with how crazy and high tension everything is. I'd rather fend off with the zombies, you know, and he's so good at doing that because in the end of it, with his movies, they're not about the zombie's just there. It's like a front to get the plot rolling, and it's the humans that are the real villain always. It's always the problem with that. Power struggles mixed in with, you know, extreme games of like almost cat and mouse in a way where you just never know who's actually in charge at times. And Dawn Dead is more light with its like center where it's more fun and everything like that, but it still brings in those really dark moments. Like when we were watching it, I was amazed to see how fast the one like military dude randomly just like got bit. It's like only like not even, it's like halfway through the movie and he's already gone. He's a zombie. And then you see like she's pregnant and there's issues there with that. Even Ken Foree's character being like, you know, I could give you an abortion, you know. It's like, holy shit, like the themes that he deals with. Well,
especially at like in the context of when that film came out, like that's
78.
Yeah. We're like, so much more desensitized in a way to that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, like you and I were talking about it, where it's like the fact that you see like religious people in the movie, like there's a father, he's only got like one leg hobbling in. You see like the
Hare Krishna,
yeah, he's a zombie. You know, the fact that you see those are totally that's intentional. That's not just like, what do we have? It's like no, let's get that in there. The fact that there's that the wonderful scene where they have to refuel for their helicopter before they get to the mall, and then you have two standout moments. You have the amazing effect that Tom Savini did, where the head gets sliced by the helicopter blade. For 78 and low budget, that's pretty amazing. And then Ken Foree having to gun down those two zombie children. Like 78, that's like, whoa, you know, holy shit.
As like, obviously as even though the effects don't exactly hold up
to modern
standards, like it's still they're still great.
Yeah.
But I was amazed at how much impact the zombie kids
it still holds on you.
Still had when
and George A. Romero is such a phenomenal editor. Like his whole shooting style is like, we'll just grab as much coverage as possible, as much stuff as I think we need, so that in post I can spend like a year and put it all together. And the way he edits that, it's a lot of like quick cuts between showing the kids the gun. I think it even cuts to like Ken Foree's face, and it's just like the intensity with that like kind of music, that like music, it makes you unsettled. You're like, God damn. And you kind of see him like waver a bit. You know, he's like, holy shit, I just did this. And you're like, holy shit, I can't believe he just did this, you know.
My wife was not supposed to have a child.
There's definitely that theme, I think, throughout the movie, kind of going back to you speaking on, well, the zombies aren't really the villain or they're
not the center point.
They're not the center point. It's like you change a few plot points, it could have been any natural disaster or or like an invasion or something.
Yeah.
There is this theme though, I think, of human psychology and like people breaking down in this moment of like high pressure and like everything's really fucked up.
Yeah.
And we see like I always forget the blonde military dude's name, whatever his name is.
I'll put it up here. Yeah.
He's he's a weird looking motherfucker, number one.
But his makeup is amazing. Oh, when he looks like death. Yeah.
Yeah, when he turns and like there's like I always weird tangent, but like I've always thought that Gollum halfway through his transformation is one of the most things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
When he's all like half Gollum and like white and like super pale and just looked. And the parallel is that military guy.
Yeah.
When he's halfway through the transition is like, oh man, it's grotesque.
Don't do it till you're sure I am coming back. I'm gonna try not to. I'm gonna try not to come back. Not to.
What the hell is going on here?
Even though it's like, oh my God, what, 40 years old, 50 years old, like it still gets to you because of those psychological games it plays. I love that announcer they have on TV with the eye patch, whatever that actor's name is.
He's like a doctor.
Yeah,
like
he's a doctor
or something.
And he's just like, he's talking about like how we cannot like fall into insanity. We can't allow society to fall into chaos. We need to like band together and think logically. He's like, we have to think logically. And he's just so exhausted explaining this over and over again. He's like, we have to. It's like it's not a maybe. It's like we have to. And
like these aren't our friends and family. These are
they're
creatures. They're not human anymore.
Yeah.
We've got to remain logical. We've got to. There's no choice. It has to be that. It's that or the end.
What would I do if my friend was there dying? Like we said, it's like, would you just kill him immediately so he doesn't have to have 3 days of death? Or would you wait until that very last moment where now it could be a liability if you can't pull that trigger at the end? And I like that. I love those kind of conflictions, and it makes it more interesting than just your run-of-the-mill zombie movie. And I think that's why it stands the test of time, even though we can say that the effects are dated. It's just like the concept of them being in the mall is fun, but then the execution of it and what he's trying to deliver the message through is timeless. It's timeless. It will always be relevant, and it has enough charm to it that I think I could see this I could see in 100 years this still being a movie that people bring up. It just doesn't feel like it would go away,
Conceptually for sure, and story wise, I think as well, especially dealing with, I think, consumerism it's still equally, if not more relevant now than it was then, in a different way. And like one thing I thought would be an interesting thing to talk about is so in 78 when this came out, the mall was like this key social societal gathering place. People didn't just go there just to get an item and leave. It was like you went there and you, for a large segment of the population, you would hang out there. Like if you were a teenager, young adult, going and hanging out at the mall was a thing you would do. Obviously it also has some strategic, from a logical standpoint, has some strategic value as well. Yeah. But modern day, you're making a similar movie. You want to make a similar commentary.
Oh, I see.
Where is it set?
Oof. Yeah,
right?
like a place
like a mall just doesn't have the same relevance, right?
Yeah.
And if it does have relevance in that context, it's because of this movie.
You almost have to like pin it down to like, what is something where people will go outside of their houses to go to? Like people would go to the mall to hang out all day. So you would want to set in a place that would essentially be like going to an event, Like, what would that be like?
It got me thinking, and I can't think of a place that holds that same significance.
That would also feel like really cozy. Maybe if there's like some sort of, for me at least, this is more of a personal thing, but maybe if there was some sort of like 40 auditorium movie theater that was amazing, maybe I'd go there. But like Avatar 4 is coming out. It's a packed theater. All 40 screenings of Avatar. You have like a Scooby-Doo moment where everyone's running through theater doors and it's just Avatar playing all the time. I agree with you though. It's like, what do you do? Because like you think about areas that you could set into like carnival or a fair, but it's just like nothing seems as charming as that 70s mall,
and doesn't hold the same like significance.
Yeah, it doesn't have that message, right? Like like the idea of going to a mall, the idea of having those moments where it's like, why does the biker gang go into the mall? Like, right? Why are they drawn to it as well?
There's that theme also throughout the movie of people. Zombies and people and whatever. Everyone is drawn to this mall for
they're all going there.
Some reason, and they it's kind of pitched in the movie almost as if it's like there's like a call, like some kind of like
it's like a subconscious thing where it's like you have to go there, you know? So it's just like you have Tom Savini's biker gang, you know, coming in and they're like,
and they're fully unhinged.
Yeah, and they're unhinged, they're crazy, and they're the real villains of the movie. And it's just like, and yes, I was like, you're coming in here, but all you're doing is just destroying it once again.
Oh, yeah, and
you know,
and like we've established these zombies are dangerous, even though they're slow walking, whatever.
Yeah.
And what do they do? The first thing they do?
Yeah.
They're throwing pies in their faces.
Yeah, like
hitting them with the like water.
There's like this fortress set up for this mall. And their first thing to do is to just like bust open doors and just smash everything and destroy everything and steal. And that's what I love too, is like they're stealing pointless shit. Like the one guy picks up the TV and it's like, what the hell are you gonna do with that? And he's like, I don't know, and just throws it and then he smashes one.
Taking all the money out of the bank?
Yeah, taking the money. You know, that great Kent 49 line, you never know, right? And they just like take it all. You know, like that's a great little moment as well.
You never know.
Money, money, money. Right.
So it's like, I love that he uses those themes of it, because very easily George A. Romero in the 70s could have just said, I want to be exploitive. I just want to shock people. That's the end of it. But no.
Hyper gore fest.
Yeah, hyper gore. But no, he used it as a political message, like kind of like this, just like what independent filmmaking is now and was when it got really popular in the 90s, right? It's like this small little movie that is niche and weird, but it's trying to tell a message. It's got moral. It's got so much love behind it, you know. And George Romero's he always makes movies like that. Even like Creepshow was his most commercial film, and that still had a bunch of people in it from like his heyday going in and everything like that, and the system rejected him, so he just kind of like always kind of just tried to do his own thing all the time, and I admire it to death. And Dawn of the Dead is like a shining example of it. So it really is just like a standout. I think everybody looks great. They got that weird 70s like hiring strange people look, but
what's her face, the
lead actress in the movie, she's
a Shelley Duvall looking lady.
She's weird looking. She actually doesn't even act anymore. She was only in like 3 movies, I want to say. It's this. She's quickly in Creepshow as, you remember the amazing Leslie Nielsen?
Vaguely,
where he's like drowning Ted Danson and everything. It was the wife that got buried. That was her too. And then she went and directed. So she's just like, I want to direct now. So she directs like shows and stuff like that and documentaries, I think. So yeah, like she just she has a weird look to her. She's good in the movie too. I always think there's like that stark image of her putting up on all that makeup, and then she holds the revolver up. Feels like right out of something like Badlands or you know, like kind of like you're waiting, or like Natural Born Killers. Like you're just waiting for her to go and mow everybody down, and she's pregnant. You know, it's just like, it's so weird. And Flyboy probably, I was thinking about it after watching the movie. He has one of the best zombie walks ever. Like with his gun and his leg and everything.
His leg all twisted and up.
And then they precursor kind of what they end up going further on in Day of the Dead Bub, that he remembers that there's like a false door, and it's like, so you
leads
see
to that downfall.
So even as a trilogy, even though they're so far removed from each other, even by decades, it's like, I like how he shows this progression of the zombies and like the ideology or mythology of them and what they can do and everything, until like, you know, modern day society just blew that out of the gates with all these other movies. But he clearly had vision. It wasn't just, like we said, some sort of bullshit, let's just put out a movie, make some money and run with it. It's like true artist. And it's just kind of crazy that you think
there's tons of subtext.
Oh yeah.
You could, if you really wanted to be one of those like film school, film studies,
you could go
you could really dive deep into like, what does this say about, what is he trying to say about society,
the societal messages,
man's inhumanity to man, and
exactly,
whatever. Which it's a fine conversation. I don't think that we want to dive too deep into that though, but
it can be both. It can be a movie that you go to,
absolutely.
You buy the criterion of it and it's a film historian movie, or it's a fun entertainment pop film, you know, and that's what I love about it. we were shocked to find how not readily available this was on streaming services as well.
Oh, that was crazy.
Because it's his fucking producer, George A. Romero, and his producer. This guy's notorious. He has the rights to these movies, and he won't like sell them out for like anything other than a ridiculous amount of money. So I thought that ended with Second Sight's 4K that came out that I just recently grabbed. And no, it's still a thing. It's nowhere. So I'm assuming just streaming services, because I thought it would be on Shudder or something like that, or at least you could buy a digital of it. Nothing. Nowhere. Yeah. Couldn't believe it. So that guy, needs to just pass on or something like that, or release these.
Just take a chill
rights.
pill. Yeah.
It's holy shit. He wants so greedy, And I am happy though that there was a DVD, there's a Blu-ray, and now there's this amazing 4K set that you can get, and the movies are like cleaned up. I watched like a side by side, and it's almost like the colors are totally different. Like I might have to sit down and rewatch it again just so you could see like how true to the colors it was. And the original like cinematographer was in charge of that restoration, so it's pretty amazing. Like it's shocking how different it looks from that Blu-ray.
We were talking about the blood and how like red. It just looks like
so
red paint.
Red, right? Yeah. And then I wonder, maybe no one's watching this, but if you put a comment down and tell me, did they do that because of issues of Technicolor back in the day? Because that's my theory, was maybe they made it so red, but I don't know.
My thought was like the rating on it would be way too crazy if it the blood looked too real.
Maybe.
Or maybe there's something, but that being said, they're like, it looks pretty real when they're eating
that stuff looks good. So I have no idea. It might just been like back in the day mixing fake blood. Maybe that was just the standard. Because like 1950s, 1960s Hammer horror was like basically paint. So maybe they were just like, let's just do that. Could have been a stylistic thing. George Romero maybe just likes that look, and he was like, whatever, let's just do it. No idea. I'm okay with it, but it is weird. It's like you look at it and you're like, the stark contrast between like, wow, them devouring these guts looks really good and feels pretty realistic
and then we
in
see
ways.
The blood and
then you see like these pops of blood, when he gets like shot in the leg and stuff, and you're like, that doesn't look as good. So, but like I said, it's all forgiven because the movie just like it sucks you in and engrosses you, and for 2 hours, it's crazy. It's a 2-hour movie. It doesn't even feel like a 2-hour horror movie is unique, where it doesn't feel like it's dragging. It's constantly entertaining, and you feel really bad for that. Like by the end, you're kind of like, what a great little hub that they had, and now it's gone. But then when Ken Foree's amazing, escape moment.
That's one of my favorite moments in the whole film. He's
so great.
He's got the gun to his head, and he's like, you can tell that what's going on is like, do I do it?
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna do it. And then like, there's that moment, and the music hits, and he takes it. Boom.
It's epic. It's awesome.
Yeah.
He even
does the football shuffle out
he's
there.
going out, he's grabbing, jumps in, and then he runs and just kicking people. Remember, he does like, he almost does like karate and stuff like that. He's like jump kicking guys, and it's like, this is great. I love everything about this stuff. The music's playing, and it's all like heroic. It's funny because you think like, oh, that sounds so out of tune for like a political horror movie, and it's like it works because of that fun environment, that fun stuff. Maybe if it was in Day of the Dead it wouldn't work, but for Dawn it works, and the movie's got charm for days. One of the most charismatic movies you'll ever see, I think. Just reeks with personality.
And I think like kind of wrapping up Dawn of the Dead a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like this particular zombie movie spawned and informed so much of what we've seen now, and I think of even the video games that have come basically
Dead Rising
directly almost out of that.
Could be a copyright infringement if anything,
just about, hey?
Yeah, like it feels so, because once again, it's got that first one has so much charisma and it's charming, and it's like that. Like it feels like it almost could take place in the same world as the 78 Dawn of the Dead. Really beautiful. So I love the impact that it's had on society. I love that it's like this, probably the most modern new monster. I can't think of any new monster, because it's like you got like Jeepers Creepers, but he's just a monster, right? It's just like when you think about like Frankenstein's monster, or the Wolfman, or the Invisible Man, these classic ones. It's like, and this was 68 or 60 whatever, the Night of the Living Dead, when it first came out, and it's like the fact that that's like the last one I can think of. So it's just like, that's really amazing, because zombies back in the 30s with like White Zombie and stuff like that was more voodoo. That was like hypnosis zombie, like brain dead zombie, but this is like living dead, kind of deal. And this is so
walking
new.
corpses kind of thing.
That was so new, and I love it. And it's just like I really. I love how much it spawned over the course of like 50 years. I agree that the fun take of zombies is definitely given from this movie, because if you just went off Night of the Living Dead, I mean, that movie is so like, I mean, we talked about it's dry for modern day. I still really love it, but like
as a piece of history,
yeah,
I
as a
also
piece of
love it.
history, it's like, but when you look at it, that one's really trying to do a political thing, like really heavily doing a political
Like hitting
thing.
you over the head with
yeah,
it.
yeah, almost, you know. And it's like, so I'm glad that we have this middle movie that really kind of shows you that it's like we can still have the perfect balance. We can have,
There can be a sense of humor,
as
well as the heavy subject.
we can have the fun stuff, but then we can also sprinkle in the little moments as well, where it's not so fun, it's a little more serious, where you have those wonderful stand-up moments, like I referenced again to the when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. That's a great
Such
line.
a great line.
Yeah. So
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
George A. Romero, you've passed on, but you did an amazing job with Dawn of the Dead. And 10 years later, he came back and did Day of the Dead.